You're live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday, April 17th, 2025, 6 o'clock p.m. meeting of the Auburn Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Robert Tatro. I'm the chair, and I'm calling the meeting to order. So again, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. Please note that the meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Is there anyone here this evening that is planning on recording this evening? Thank you, sir. And can you identify yourself? That is part of the rule. Just for the record, that was Alan Rafferty, because he was not near a microphone, but he did acknowledge that he would be recording the meeting this evening. So before we proceed, let me remind everyone to ensure that the meeting runs smoothly, efficiently, and respectfully. Only one person may speak at a time, and each speaker must be recognized by the chair before proceeding. We'll also adhere to our established agenda. In the interest of time, we will limit each speaker's comments to, I'm going to go with 3 minutes this evening. Please be concise and avoid repetition of points already made by others. If a point has been covered, we kindly ask that you refrain from repeating it to ensure that allow everyone a chance to contribute. And again, we do have a sign-in sheet going around, so if you'd like to sign up for public comment on any one of the hearings, please go ahead and fill in that for me. So Ms. Rhodes will be attending this evening. She just let me know she's on her way. She's late, a little bit of traffic going on. So I think by the time I actually get this first meeting open and read the entire public hearing part of it, she might be here. So do I have a motion to open the meeting this evening?
Mr. Chairman, motion to open the hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. So we have a 6 o'clock p.m. applicant, New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, doing business as AT&T, and they are requesting a variance from the terms of Section 3 of the Town of Auburn zoning bylaw, hereinafter referred to as the bylaw, Table of Principal Uses of 3245 and Section 9311.3D, which is a height issue. And to the extent applicable, 5.4 of the bylaw, Dimensional Regulations Table Height 93113, N, 2-mile separation, and 93113C, setbacks to property lines and residential structures. Pursuant to Section 9.5 or Section 9.311.3S of the bylaw, Massachusetts General Laws 40A, and the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996, the TCA, for the construction, operation, and maintenance of a personal wireless service facility, and such other relief as deemed necessary, all rights reserved for a 140-foot above-ground level monopole-style tower with all the appurtenances at 174 Leicester Street, Auburn, Mass., map 39, parcel 30. So in regular speak, that means they're looking to put a cell tower on 174 Leicester Street. So that's what we're going to be talking about this evening to begin with. So with that being said, do I have a motion to open the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, motion to open the hearing.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. So do we have any abutters that want to speak on this issue before I allow the applicant to begin? Okay, just for the record, hearing none, seeing none, but, okay, sir, I'm going to turn it over to you if you'd like to go through your presentation, and then we'll turn it over to the board.
Yes, thank you, and good evening. My name is Edward Parry. It's P-A-R-E. I'm an attorney at Brown Rudnick. I'm here representing New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, which operates as AT&T. So yeah, that was a great summation, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we're looking to put a cell tower on the Water District property. Back in 2022, pursuant to a request for proposal, we entered into a lease agreement with the Water District. We're proposing to put a 140-foot tower. All of the materials I'll speak about were submitted to the board as part of our application. The tower is basically going to be located towards the rear where the water tanks are located. We're going to access it from Partridge Lane. We've acquired the necessary rights in accordance with the Water District. We'll put a small gravel drive, I think it's 60 feet long, over to the compound. It's a fence compound, 8-foot high fence, security fence on the top with barbed wire. I don't know if there are particular questions or what the board would be interested in, but we provided a ton of materials with respect to the coverage gap. AT&T is suffering, I think everybody agrees that AT&T has a coverage gap in the area. This will resolve that gap to a great extent, link up with the other sites. Again, I can drill down on any particular requirements. The tower will be built for at least 3 carriers for co-location purposes. The revenue will run to the Water District, so at least there's a public use of the rental fee, the rents that we'll be paying. We do need some setback height relief. We did design the tower with a break point so that it actually fall within the leased area that we have, not impacting other residents or the property line. So we've asked for relief. We need a use variance. We need some dimensional variances, as you read, Mr. Chair. With that, it might just be easier if, the board had particular questions.
Sure.
And we'll have our folks address them to the extent I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so just want to make sure nobody else walked in that wants to speak first as far as an abutter goes. Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Mr. Maron, to you, sir, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
So the height variance, if I understand it, you're looking for 40 feet of relief, is that correct?
Correct. So it's a little bit dicey because I can't quite see it, so I don't want to be disrespectful.
I've never had that problem where people can't see me. So I appreciate the compliment, but I'll
Yeah.
move over a bit.
We've actually asked for 2 height variances. So this is not in the overlay district. It's not in an area where towers are allowed by special permit, which is why we're before you for the variance request and not the planning board. So we've asked for 2 height variances. One is under a strict reading of your bylaw. A structure height limit would be 35 feet. I think it's 35 feet in this zoning district. The tower height limit, if we were in a permissible zone, would be 100. So yes, it's 140, but we did ask for that we tried to get all the relief we need, and this is kind of a unique situation we're
I
dealing with.
appreciate the explanation in articulating the 2 different spaces there. You saw how I went right to the 40 feet in
Got it.
assuming on what you were doing with the RA district. Okay. And setback relief that you're looking for.
Yeah, so the setback relief is required to be a minimum of 2 times the height of the tower, or 300 feet from a residential property line. We are not going to satisfy that, so we've asked for the necessary relief. I think we're about 48-something feet from the property line from the monopole. But as I said, there's not a safety issue. We did place the tower in a somewhat treed and, vegetated area, so there's not a great deal of visibility. But the tower, if it did fail, is designed to fail within that 75-foot compound. But we do need the relief for the setback.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to reserve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Cussy?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Chacolo, sir, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to be back. Yeah, no, it isn't. I have no questions. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you. Ms. Bush?
I don't have any questions on this one.
And I'm going to go over to you, Mr. Garabedian.
I'm all set.
Okay. My only question is, I suppose, would be, I know that it's for AT&T, but I think generally speaking, these towers tend to get leased out to other companies as well. Is that not right?
That's correct, yeah. And we did design this tower so that other competitors could co-locate to it in accordance with the bylaw, so.
Okay. And I'm not pointing that out as a negative. I just know that this particular area of town has been a contentious area for a big break for a lot of companies for a very long time. And it's been talked about for a while, so that's why I just wanted to get that on record. So it's not just for them, it's also if you have cell, Wi-Fi, et cetera, you might have better results with that.
Oh, without question, and the bylaw requires co-location. The idea is that if we build it and we get it approved, if we get it approved and then build it, the other carriers will come. AT&T will have the top spot, but I fully expect that Verizon will come on board, and I think we submitted a late letter that Verizon does have interest to co-locate on the tower, so we expect they'll come on board. T-Mobile is likewise a competitor in the area. We expect that, once word gets out that the tower is under development and is going to be constructed, they likewise would join.
Thank you. Okay. Any comments from the town side, sir?
No.
No? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe there's an abutter that may want to speak.
I do see that. Did you want to speak, Mr. Largis?
I just have a question, Mr. Chair.
You gotta approach the mic.
Yep.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just reminding you.
Yep. Danny Lodges, 39 Perry Place. Question, is this something that the town's emergency police and fire might be able to use? Because the old dump, if I'm not mistaken, the tower is junk up there now. So is this maybe something in the future that, the fire and police communications might be able to use this?
I think through the chair, we can ask that, but I would agree, but I think maybe the technology, that was probably a repeater that was up there at one time.
Correct.
I think
Correct.
our technology might be better than that now, but that's a great question. Go right ahead.
I just,
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you, so we have had discussions with the fire department, police department. As I put in my materials, this is also designated a FirstNet site. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a network that came out after the 9/11 Commission to provide ubiquitous coverage. So AT&T won an RFP. They have a 25 or 30-year agreement with the federal government to provide first responder network capabilities. So it's a priority preemptive system. So, for example, if there was a mass issue where everybody's trying to get on their cell phone at one time, overloads the system, then the FirstNet would allow only the first responders and would basically prevent typical commercial consumer traffic from getting onto the site. So that's one important aspect. Secondly, we have had discussions with police and fire. I don't think we're prepared to give them some space on the pole and on the ground. I mean, that all needs to be worked out, but we do expect police and fire would probably be interested in it. I don't know if they really wanted to commit at this early stage, but they're definitely interested. They could use it. My understanding is police is on one of the water tanks, but the water tanks are really low, and there's some issue there with their coverage. So we're very supportive of public safety. We're in the same business, provide communications, especially during difficult times, 911, et cetera. So we will continue to work with police and fire, and hopefully we can get them on board. And it would be something that we could work with them so that they could use it for their equipment also.
Great. Okay, thank you. Any other comments out there? Hearing none, seeing none. One more time around the board.
I'm fine, Mr. Chairman.
Everyone's good? Okay, just want to make sure we're all happy. Do I have a motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, motion to close the public portion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none. Okay, Mr. Maron? If there's any discussion, if there's not, you can go to a motion, whichever you prefer.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, but if there's further discussion from the board, we can certainly do that. No, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve with standard conditions.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, so we'll just say I have a second, a motion from the vice chair and a second from Mr. Cussy. So we'll just do a roll call vote for this one. Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy? Approve. Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Ms. Roach?
Approve.
And I vote to approve. So good luck. You can contact the Department of Inspectional Services, and they'll be able to proceed with you in the next few days.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Good luck. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, 6 o'clock, not too bad. Comparatively speaking, we did pretty good. So do I have a motion to close the 6 o'clock PM hearing?
Mr. Chairman, motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. So they seem to be moving out pretty quietly, so I'm going to go ahead and start at least reading the next one. We have a 6:05 PM applicant, J. Jill Development. Is that Jack and Jill? Wait a minute. So J. Jill Development requesting a special permit to construct 4 attached townhouses with a parking lot area at 24 Central Street, Auburn, Mass., map 41, lot 115. Is the applicant present?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, motion to open the hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Do we have any abutters here that would like to speak on this matter this evening? I'll check again, but I just like to begin, at the beginning of it. So, sir, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, if you'd like to give us an overview of what you're trying to accomplish, and then we'll take it from there.
Jay Gattery, owner of J. Jill Development LLC, owner of the property at 24 Central Street, looking to 4-unit, single-family attached structure under the state bylaws and the bylaws of Auburn. The land is 47,000 square feet with 200 feet of frontage. I'm just looking to build a 4-family there,
Okay?
cut and dry.
We didn't have any abutters, so I'm just going to go ahead right to Mr. Maron. Vice Chair Maron, do you, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to reserve, if I may, just for a moment.
Okay. Mr. Cussy?
Yeah, so this meets everything. Meets all the requirements. So, I'm good for now.
Okay. Mr. Chacolo?
I am good for right now, just to reserve in case I want to speak after.
Ms. Roach?
So,
I'm going to piggyback up yours, so we
yeah.
don't have too many sets of
Yeah,
plans out here.
sorry, I just want to move that. Let's just open this so we can look at it together. Okay, thank you so much. So, there is a existing house That is on your lot, or that is not?
That is not.
Not. You just put it on the plan, okay? Is it going to be connected to town sewer?
Yes,
See the pipe out in front, so I assume, okay. And also water?
yes.
Okay. And what's the breakdown of the bedrooms, just for everyone at least listening at home? I don't, everybody doesn't have the packets that we have, but are they, is it
Three bedrooms, 1.5 bath.
on all four?
On all
of
four.
All four units? Okay.
The 1.5 car garage, 12 parking spaces in front.
And you plan to rent them or sell them?
Sell them.
Are you going to condominiumize them?
Yes.
Are you going to manage the condo?
No.
The owners will once they
Yes.
buy it? Okay, I'll reserve for now, but that's it for what I have right this moment.
Very good, by the way.
Oh.
That was excellent. But my one question would be then, if they, so that would lead to a condo association probably, just for the record too?
Yes.
Right, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
4-unit condo board.
I'm sorry?
A 4-unit HOA board.
Yeah, understood, I understand, I just like to get that on the record.
Yeah.
Before I go around one more time, any comments from the town on this?
Oh, yeah.
Hearing none, seeing none again, okay. One more time.
Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the questions asked so far. So this is before us for a special permit, correct? Succinctly because we're not asking for relief. They meet all the setbacks, correct?
Well, I think because they're all attached, correct?
Yes.
The Chair, the use needs a special permit.
Right.
And then it'll go to...
Use.
Yes.
But it's only use.
Right,
They're
that's-
not- they're not asking for, you're not asking for any relief
Nope.
of any measure anywhere. It's only use. And that's why I wanted to, okay.
And,
Did you have a follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
no, I'm going to
Okay, I
go
was
ahead.
pausing.
No, that's okay, I was waiting for you too.
No, no worries. No, I mean, that was my primary, is I wanted to verify that we weren't looking at setbacks, we weren't looking at any other relief. It's clearly just use, based on where it is for 4 attached.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I'm good.
Okay.
Good.
Mr. Chacolo?
One question. I may have it in front of me, but I haven't, I can't recall seeing it. How much are you going to be increasing the impervious area?
So the parking spaces?
There's no parking spaces there now. I'm going to make sure that there's 12 parking spaces.
Well, your permit is requiring due to an increase in impervious area.
Yes.
Well, yeah, again, that's the use, because he's going to be putting in the driveway.
Yeah.
So it's between the driveway and the lot.
It's going to come not close, but it
Do we know what the
apparently
calculated-
is within the area of the little brook that goes through.
I will not be impeding on that area. It's going to be, if you look at the lot, the driveway will be snug to the left side of the lot, up into the back.
All right.
So if I could just add, I've lived in this neighborhood for quite a long time now, walked numerous dogs and things around there, and I know exactly where this garage he's talking about here, and honestly, with the house that's there now, and where that garage is, with the exception of the garage being gone, and I think by the time that's built, you're probably not even going to notice those things are there, depending on how this grows around it otherwise. I mean, I think it's pretty well done, you're not even going to really see it.
All right.
You're correct.
Yeah,
Garage was this.
yeah, that's that little, right there, that, you know, the one at the bottom of the hill right here. So, I mean, honestly, I think I think you maximized the perfect layout as far as I can see, as the lot plan, so. But anyway, that's all I really have.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to follow up Mr. Colo, I mean, I think that based on the nature of the land use, is they're citing the impervious surface and how it's disturbed, but we don't have an initial calculation of what the impervious surface is now versus what they're proposing. But respectfully, I don't think it's problematic.
And through the Chair, this will be going to planning board, and it'll need a land disturbance permit with the DPW, so
Right.
all that'll be worked on.
No, thank you very much.
And they'll still have to go see conservation anyway. 'cause,
Yeah, I would.
You know, the stream and the wetlands across the street, you know, they're going to have to at least,
Yeah.
take a good observation of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those boards are more than qualified to rule on those topics. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you to everyone. Anyone else? Any other further comments? How about from our alternates, anything?
I think it's been covered.
One quick question. I don't think you've said it yet. How tall are these going to be? I'm guessing 3-story, right?
3 stories between 28 and 29 and a half feet.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Last call, Ms. Roach, anything?
Nope.
All right. And I'm just going to make sure one more time, no abutters. Excellent. Do I have a motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, motion to close the public portion?
Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none. Any discussion?
Not for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve with standard conditions.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion to approve from the vice chair. I have a second from Mr. Chacolo. Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Ms. Roach?
Approved.
And I vote to approve.
You want my approval?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, could I have your approval one more time?
Of course. I approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Again, submit your plans. You can go through the rest of the process with DDIS. I'm sure we'll be in touch and get you on the schedule.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. This is a rarity to get 2 done in the first hour. Let me tell you, it's cruising along tonight. And I probably just cursed myself, and I apologize. All right, so I do have a motion to close at 6:05.
Mr. Chairman, motion to close?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, just for the record, that was Mr. Chacolo who seconded that. Okay, we have a 6:10 PM applicant, and this is our friends at the Auburn Mall LLC, doing business as Simon Property Group, requesting 3 variances, okay? So we're going to break this one down, because I'm saying this at the front end of this is because I have to remember it, that because we have 3 variances, we're going to have to take 3 separate votes, even though this is in the same hearing. So I just wanted to make sure we all understood how we were going to proceed with that. So the 6:10 PM applicant, Auburn Mall LLC, CO Simon Property Group, requesting 3 variances for lot 1B-1, such that the front yard setback be reduced to 0 feet, and the front yard setback variance for lot 1B-2 be reduced to 0 feet, and the variance for lot 1B2 such that the rear yard setback be reduced to 0 feet at 385 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass., map 83, parcel 87. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, motion to open the hearing?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do we have any abutters that would like to speak on this hearing before I allow the applicant to proceed? Hearing none, seeing none, thank you. Yes, sir, if you'd like to introduce yourself?
Chairman, I apologize for interrupting you. Could you indulge me for just 10 seconds?
Of course you can.
Mr. Fallon, could I convince you to come this way just a half a foot? Perfect.
Got it.
Perfect. Perfect. And I apologize. Thanks for
Sorry.
indulging me.
No, it's
But
okay.
this is, I can't tell you how much better that is for me. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Close.
So we don't have any abutters, and we see that the applicant's representative present. If you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself, sir, and give us your presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and to the other members of the board. For the record, my name is Adam Baldarelli. I'm an attorney at Fletcher Tilton, and I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant, Mall at Auburn, Simon Property Group. As the chairman just stated, we are seeking 3 variances for tonight, 2 front yard setback variance, as well as 1 rear yard setback variance. The address is 385 Southbridge Street, also known as the Auburn Mall. And I prepared a brief slideshow presentation I think will help detail and describe a little bit of what I'll be talking about tonight. So what we have here on the first slide is an overview of the Auburn Mall. As we can see on the northmost part of the image is the Macy's department store, which takes up a good chunk of that image. To the east and west are 2 parking garages at the property, and attached at the rear part of the Macy's structure, we have the larger, and you can see from the roof, the darker colored retail stores that are the much smaller stores, such as the Landcrafters, Kay, and I will also point out for the board, as I will be mentioning it in a few moments, the Reliant Medical Center building, which is again attached to the side of the rear part of the structure at the rear. Just a little bit of background, which I think will be helpful. Our client, the Mall at Auburn, is the landlord, and the tenant here is Macy's. There is an existing lease between the landlord, our client, and the tenant, Macy's, for the leased premises, for a certain part of the leased premises. And as shown on this screen here, in the northmost part of the plan, it shows as Lot 1B. It also shows that in the top, which it looks like it's a little blurry, but it does outline in the north the line of the leased area, which is a dotted line area. So within their lease, it outlines a specific area, which is this dotted line area here. Also within that lease is Macy's option to purchase that area, and Macy's is exercising their option to purchase that area, which is why I am before the board this evening requesting 3 specific variances.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to clarify for the folks here and at home. You said that Macy's is interested in purchasing this part of the mall, is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Thank you, okay. Go ahead.
Specifically to exercise their option to purchase and move forward with that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. So, in order to do so, now on the next screen here, what was once the dotted line parcel is now a more boldened or combined line here of the space that was the leased premises. There are currently, this lot is labeled as 1B. What I mentioned in our narrative and our brief to the board, which was provided when we filed this, we recognize that if the board were to approve the 3 variances tonight, the next step would be to go to the planning board to get an approval not required, so that the lot, which is now 1B, would be split or partitioned into Lot 1B1 and Lot 1B2. And most specifically, the Macy's portion would be Lot 1B2. What I am describing, the bifurcation of part of the mall, has been done before. I certainly wasn't involved in that project. I don't know if any of the members of the board recall or what was done in the past, but with regards to Reliant that I highlighted on the first slide, Reliant was attached or is attached to the rear part of the structure on the side yard. And the side yard was reduced in the regional mall overlay district, which is where this property sits, to reduce the side yard setback to 0. And by doing so, Reliant was able to come in, purchase that specific portion of the structure, and they've been there ever since. They've been successful. They've been contributing members of the Auburn community that members of this community can use and to this day. So with that, I am requesting that the board approve the 3 variances so that the Macy's can do essentially the same thing. And as you can see on the final slide here, I detailed what are called, for lack of a better phrase, pinch points, the specific areas where if this parcel of 1B was able to be partitioned into 1B1 and 1B2, where the front and rear yard setbacks would require the variances specifically. So we're asking that they be reduced to 0. What I will indicate, what I will highlight, is that the Regional Mall Overlay District is a unique area in and of itself. It's a specific portion of Auburn. The structure within the Regional Mall Overlay District, this particular parcel, is itself unique. It's large and imposing. The structures are combined on the sides, and as you can see here, the front and rear of a very specific portion. I would also highlight that I don't believe there's any detriment to the public good by the board allowing any of these 3 variances. In fact, I believe it would progress and move forward what we have here as an anchor tenant remaining and using their space to become a fee owner here in the town of Auburn. The request for the variances is really the path that is required in order for this to move forward. Macy's, as I mentioned, is currently a tenant. They've been here, they've been a part of this community, and now they want to remain a part of this community. And in order to do so, in order to purchase their parcel, that building as detailed as 1B2, proposed 1B2, excuse me, the variances are an important part of that process, an important next step. So with that, I'll ask the board if they have any questions for me. I'm happy to answer them.
Again, just to make sure, did anybody come in from the audience that would like to speak on this? Thank you, sir. If you could like to approach the microphone and introduce yourself. A man who needs no introduction, I should say.
Steve Chambers, Bancroft Street. I just want to, I don't have the packet, but how is parking going to be handled? And if this is separate and there's no parking, how will they access that in the future? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and Mr. Chair, if I may answer that question for the member here. If you can see on the right side here, where the rear yard setback at the bottom, that bottom circle, it actually goes straight up. That's cutting in half the part of the existing parking garage, and it would include the entire parking garage to the west, of the existing Macy's. And I'll use this point to add, there's no construction going on here. There's no changes in height or noise or anything, or lighting or anything of that nature. This is an existing lease, an outlined existing parcel or space, and Macy's is choosing to exercise their option to continue with that exact same layout space.
Anyone else? Hearing none, seeing none. To you, Vice Chair Maron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If in fact this property is parsed out as described, what's the intended use?
Mall. So if what you're asking is for the bylaws, existing use is mall, and by definition, proposed use would also be mall. It's Macy's currently, and it would remain Macy's.
So it'll remain retail,
Yes.
all of this space?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Cussy, do you remember the first time they did the mall?
I do.
Changes? I thought you would. That's why I wanted to refer you.
It was going to be a movie theater originally, at one point, and then, then it changed to a... But, if nothing's changing, I don't see an issue with it. We obviously allowed Macy's to go ahead and build, so, yeah.
Mr. Chicolo, sir?
No questions.
Ms. Roach?
So I guess I just want to elaborate a little bit on Mr. Chambers' question, because I'm not sure that you fully answered it, and I don't want to speak for someone else, but if this is allowed, Macy's will now own effectively both parking garages. Is Macy's going to allow everyone else who goes to the mall to use those garages?
I don't know if I can comment for what Macy's will do. I don't represent Macy's. All I can indicate is that they would own the property to the west, and they would own half of the property to the east.
Okay.
I think that's the best I can comment, because I don't want to say something that's not accurate. I'm not sure. All I know is what's existing currently, and that's their intent to keep it that way.
Okay. That's the only question I really have.
Okay. To our alternates. Ms. Bush?
I have nothing.
Mr. Garabedian?
Yeah, just to make it super clear, all we're doing as a board is we're facilitating helping Macy's effectuate their option to purchase, correct? Nothing on the ground is going to actually change from this decision?
That's exactly correct.
Right.
That's all I had.
Right, so I think in summary, what we're saying is, we're basically allowing them to redraw the lines onto the ground. Nothing's really gonna change on top.
Right.
And fundamentally, they're gonna be able to move some of their product to another company, right? Basically, they're gonna sell a parcel of the land, so I think, obviously, it's our biggest tenant in town. We do have a mall overlay district. The town has spent a substantial amount of money, ooh, bless you.
Bless you.
The town has spent a substantial amount of money along with the state in improving Route 12 and all of the Drury Square and all the other things along with it. I think this is just our continuing investment as, with a good, friendly relationship with our mall, realistically. Okay, so with that being said, do I have any more comments from the public at all? Okay. Yes, sir.
Al Rafferty, Paul Street. I have several questions clear up some ignorance I have on setbacks. If we change the setback, is the town essentially giving you some town property?
I see your point, but I know what you mean. So if the setbacks go, I think if I could just add to your comment, Mr. Rafferty, if the setbacks go to 0, is the town losing any property over that? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. Okay, just want to make sure.
Thank you for the question, and through the chair, I'll answer it. I believe the answer to that would be no. I mean, this is the lease, this is all existing presently, and like I mentioned earlier, it's currently included as part of a lease. It's what Macy's has existing in the present lease, and these variances would simply allow them to own that specific outlined area on their own, in fee simple. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I understand the reason why you want to change the variances, but explain to me what a variance does. My understanding, and maybe you can clear up my ignorance, is a variance means that there's a plot of land, and the town, if they say there's a 5-foot variance, the town essentially owns 5 feet. If you're reducing it, the variance to 0, then the town doesn't control any of that plot. So it would at least seem to me that if we're going from a variance to 0, that we're giving you access to more property and therefore increasing the ownership of the property. Do you follow me on that?
I do. Thank you for the question. If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I can respond further. I think what might be helpful is if I backspace here. You can see that Lot 1B is an existing parcel. That's what exists right now. That's what's owned by the landlord, existing Lot 1B. What we're proposing is to keep with 1B, however, divide it, a portion of that parcel, to partition it such that it creates 1B1 and 1B2. So the area wouldn't change. A portion of the ownership would change from essentially our client to Macy's. And I hope that answers the question completely for you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Rafferty?
Well, thank you for trying to explain that to me. My second question, out of 3, is, are these changes that you're asking for have anything to do with what I heard a developer wants to come in and build a 6-story high apartment building where Sears is currently located? Is this got anything to do with that project?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, answer that question for him.
You may.
Not to my knowledge at all. No. No knowledge of anything like that happening.
Okay, thank you. Has the town, but just for the record, has the town been approached by anything like that or heard anything?
This is the first I've heard of it.
Okay.
Well, you will be hearing about it. My final statement, it's not a question, just a statement. I would recommend that you not make the change. Quite frankly, I don't think we need to give any more benefits to a mall that, in the opinion of some people, is a dying mall. And a recent article in a national newspaper magazine said that if a recession comes about, many retailers are going to go out of business. And as we know, Macy's has been closing locations. So I'm not sure why we should give any added benefit here, because I think essentially you're kicking a dead horse at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the board. Vice Chair Maron, to you.
I have no additional questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Cussy?
My feeling is I would like Macy's to stay here, personally, buy the building and stay.
Ms. Roach?
Nothing further.
And to our alternates one more time.
Just a comment based off Mr. Cussy's comment. My assumption is if Macy's is trying to exercise their option to purchase it, they have a long-term intent to stay in this location, so I agree that we should help facilitate that.
Okay. Ms. Bush?
I have nothing to add.
All right, do I have a motion to close the public portion of the hearing? I have no comment, so
Mr. Chairman, motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none. Okay, around the board one more time. Vice Chair Maron, any comments or a motion? I'll entertain either.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, but I'm happy to reserve if anyone has any comments or questions.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the applicant, I'll make a motion to approve with standard conditions.
Okay, so what we'll do is, let me take it down, I'm going to break it down, as I said, into 3 votes, so let's do that. So the first one will be the applicant, Mall at Auburn LLC, CO, Simon Property Group, requesting 3 variances, so we'll do the Lot 1B1, such that the front yard setback be reduced to 0 feet. So that's the first one. So I just want to make sure as I'm reading them, I'm not breaking them down incorrectly. So Lot 1B1, such that the front yard setback shall be reduced to 0 feet. Do I have a motion to approve?
And, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Do I have a second? Okay, Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
I'm sorry, Ms. Roach?
Approve.
And I vote to approve. Okay, so the second one would be a front yard setback for Lot 1B2 be reduced to 0 feet. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve with the addition of front yard setback variance for Lot 1B2.
Oh, okay, okay, a front yard setback variance for Lot 1B2 be reduced to 0 feet. Thank you very much.
Certainly, and I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Ms. Roach?
Approve.
And I vote to approve. And for the last one, and a variance for Lot 1B2 such that the rear yard setback be reduced to 0 feet at 385 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass., map 83, parcel 87. And for the record, the map 83, parcel 87 applies to each one of those individual votes. So do I have a motion on that last one?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Ms. Roach?
Approve.
And I vote to approve. The 610 is complete. Good luck, sir. If you have any questions or comments, you can get in contact with the Department of Inspectional Services, and they'll be happy to follow it up with you.
Thank you to the chairman. Thank you to the members of the board. Have a good night.
Okay. Can I make a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, wait. Do I have a motion to close the 6:10 PM hearing?
Mr. Chairman, motion to close the 6:10 hearing.
I'll second.
All right, all approved?
Approve.
Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the 6:10 is closed. So can we have a 5-minute recess?
Mr. Chairman,
before we begin this last one?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
I'll
have a
second.
second?
I'll second.
All in favor? We're going to have a 5-minute recess, stretch your legs, and we'll get to this last one. Okay.
Good timing.
Welcome. Do you want to come up and join us?
You got to sit there right here.
Absolutely. Can we, do you have a chair over there for
Yep,
us?
there's one, yep,
Awesome.
there's one right at the end for Judy.
Okay. Come right over here with us. We won't let you fall.
Hi.
That's a new plan that they just brought in today for the building? Yep.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get ready to come out of recess, please.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to come out of
Are we live, Act TV? Yes, you're live. Okay, thank you. Motion to come out of recess?
Second.
Second from Mr. Chacolo, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none? Okay, sir, so before I begin this evening, and we're going to continue this hearing, I just wanted to go over and catch everybody up on what took place for the last week, okay? So I attended 2 meetings this week here at the Town Hall. One of them was with the Department of Inspectional Services, and that included Ms. Coyle, Dr. Menard, myself, and Mr. Allard. And all we did, for the record, was we took our certificate of decision on a comprehensive permit, which I have in my hand here, and we just redlined it. We went right through it to make sure that it was basically grammatically as correct as we could get it. None of the little typos were in there, and to make sure that the town was covered as much as we could for our end. So that was the first thing in that meeting, really, that's all it consisted of. Later in the week, however, we had a second meeting that I attended along with my colleague here, Ms. Roach, and it revolves around a letter that was submitted, excuse me, by the law offices of Lane and Hamer. And I believe, and again, don't misquote me, but they have represented at very least Mr. Largess and maybe some of the other abutters over there. I don't know that part of it. Technically, we kind of stay out of that end, to be honest, so that's how. But at some point, we're going to address that as well. So for the record and where we are now, as we last left it, the applicant had agreed to at least take a look at the possibility of the roof line because we have a unique zoning bylaw in town that is going to be amended, likely, I won't say it will be, it may likely be amended upon vote of the town meeting that would put our height line bylaw in alignment with all the other towns and communities around us. For some reason, when ours was written years ago, it was a very unique one. It doesn't calculate out the same way. So unfortunately, that kind of puts us in a position with the height issues. And to their credit, the applicant has been working with us on that, along with our fantastic consultant over here, Judy. So I'm going to just talk about, we're going to talk about the roof line part of it. After that discussion is over, the board is going to have to vote on whether or not we agree to that particular part of the modification of the plan. If the board does not agree to that part of the modification of the plan, so if they shoot down that agreement, that means this project is no longer viable. If the client decides it is no longer viable, they can leave and go to the state. They can just take it and go. So I would caution the board just to know that, you know, when we do take that vote, to please take that into consideration. There's been a lot of work from here, a lot of work with the Board of Selectmen, you know, all that kind of thing. So when we get to that point, we'll review it very cautiously.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
What vote specifically are you speaking of?
So at the last meeting, we had discussed whether or not we were going to have a agreed, here, right here, let me just go back. So what we're discussing here is the height issue of the building. So if you remember, we went through all of our waiver lists, and the one that we did not settle on was height. And the reason being was the client was going to go back and look at the possibility if they had the ability to maintain or change the height of the building structure at all, or try to not really impact the project. And they were going to bring that back. So that's what we're going to discuss when they open. Once we figure that out, should we get past that, then we're going to get into this other letter and some other conditions. So, and we'll talk about a little bit more about the permit. So what I'd like to do now, if it's the pleasure of the board, is to turn it over to the applicant. We'll open the hearing. He can discuss the roof line. We can get Judy involved. We can get through that point first, and then we can take it from there. I think that would be the most prudent way to do things.
Weren't there 2 waivers we did not?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there were 3 waivers we didn't discuss
Okay,
or
thank
approve
you.
last time. It was the waiver of 9.3.6.1, which is the height requirement, 9.3.6.3, which is the amount of units on it, and then 9.3.6.4, which is the amount of apartment units within the building.
Correct. So the only one that can kill the project, though, is the roof, the height requirement. But you are correct, and I appreciate your clarification on that. So we will clear up those 3, But realistically, the only one that can really affect the project either way is the issue with the height. So with that being said, this is a continuation hearing, because we're not reopening anything. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the applicant. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Board. James Venacasa, 16 Perry LLC. So I actually forgot to bring the plan, but I did email it over. Do you guys have sets of
Yes,
that
we
roof
did
plan?
receive that this evening. Thank you.
Yes. So that's a similar project, similar building, and what we're looking to do is at the peak of the roof, we're actually going to be lowering the peak of the roof down and putting actually all the condenser units and everything that you'd see on the side, we'll be putting them up there. So we'd be lowering the peak of the roof, but then on the sides, what we'd like to do is still have a roof line basically come across to cover up all the condensers and everything, so it would come up a little bit, and it also still gives it that look of a shingled roof, not a flat roof. Flat roofs are, obviously extremely commercial looking and, very contemporary. It's just typically around here, you do see a shingled roof.
Sure.
So that on the sides would come up and block all the condensers and everything that we're going to be putting on top of the roof rather than on the sides. Okay. So it drops the roof line. It's like between 6 and 8 feet. They're still not completely done with the way they can do it, but it's referred to as almost like a tub style roof where, the center of it's lower and then the sides just come up like a tub.
Right.
So we're not done with the design completely, but that's a rough sketch of what we've come up with.
Okay. So in regards to roof designs, we want to just go around one more. Let's talk about this one first in small bites. So, Vice Chair Maron, any comments or questions on the roof design?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cussy?
I don't have any questions on the roof, no.
Mr. Chacolo? Ms. Roach?
Of course I do. So, just to clarify, so the waiver that you're asking for has been the same all along. You wanted to waive it to 45 feet. Are you saying that you think when you get the new plans done, instead of 45, it will be 45 minus 6 or 8?
No, so it'll always be 45. So
Okay.
the way that the bylaws work, which is our architect says that it's actually the right way to do when you're doing a height of a building. You should actually go by the ceiling, the ceiling joists, which is the highest point of the building, and then you go roof on top of it.
Yeah.
And the reason that he actually says that, and I don't know if it changes decision, but if you did that, because what happens is when you go to 35, and a lot of the towns go to 35 right now, people are just changing the pitch of the roof to lift, the ceiling heights on all the floors, which then it's ugly. When you have a low-pitched roof, it just looks terrible. So when you guys are rewriting it, my architect was like, you should tell them to actually just lower that number and keep the way that it's written the same, and it would keep it, but, a better look of what you'd see with roof lines. Yeah, so he was like, the way they have it written is actually correct. It's all the other towns that are a little screwed up, to be honest with you. So,
And
but
that wouldn't surprise me, and that's why I say it's interesting.
it is interesting, because I've never seen it like that. And I called him multiple times to be like, am I doing this right? Like 45, does this make sense? And he's like, yes, they are correct. It's all the other towns. He's like, but it's really just for that roof line is what you want to do, is you want to keep a higher pitch roof. It's just a better look.
Just for the record, hear that? So not everyone in the past in Auburn is always wrong. He said it's the right way to do it, everybody else does it incorrect.
He said it should have been 25, not 35, or 20, or that different number.
Mr. Chambers, sir. You're more than welcome to take them and pass it around. We have a couple up here, so please feel free.
Okay.
Again, back to my question, with the redesign, through the chair, does it drop?
Yeah, 6 to 8 feet from the peak.
So instead of 66, it would look more like 60? Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Any other comments or questions while we're here at this point? See if there's an opportunity to stop and have some public comment for a minute.
Danny Lodges, 39 Perry Place. if the applicant was so willing to work, why can't he drop this to 3-story, like a townhouse, like the gentleman down the street just proposed to you people, that would fit into the neighborhood more? So instead of putting a garage on the bottom, put living space on the bottom, and then just, that'll take a whole floor completely off, and it'll fit into the neighborhood more. But I honestly don't think that he's willing to work with the town, because it's the almighty dollar that he's running on.
Well, I can't,
So, as feasible, I can't see how, a 3-story is gonna be that much less than a 4-story. Yeah, you're gonna lose some, but I don't think 6 feet is a hell of a big difference, Mr. Chair. I mean, Millbury suggested running a balloon out there just so you can grasp the height, a tied balloon, to see how high 60 feet's gonna be. I mean, I'm gonna be looking at people that are looking down at me in my swimming pool, and God forbid if I'm gonna go skinny dipping when no one's home. I don't need somebody calling the cops on me going, hey, this guy's naked in a swimming pool. 60 feet is still a drastic amount.
I appreciate those comments. And let me have the applicant address that.
There's no garage in the basement. So there is nothing down there.
Right.
So we were saying about getting rid of the garage and lowering it, there's no garage. It's units on the first floor.
Mr. Chairman, if I just may ask real quick.
You may.
I think last meeting you said that the 4 stories, though, was for accessibility purposes, right? Since
Yeah,
at that
for
point you get an elevator.
Sorry, yes, for elevators. Yeah, for the elevators, you always want to go to a 4-story. Yep.
Okay. Around the horn, Vice Chair Maron?
Not on this topic, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Cussy?
Nothing on the roof.
Okay.
Still too tall for me.
Mr. Chacolo?
Not on this topic.
Okay. Ms. Bush? Sorry, Ms. Roach?
No, I'm all set.
Now I'm going to go
for
with
now.
Ms. Bush.
Not on this topic, no.
I'm good now.
Okay. I don't have any comments or questions on it. I'd like to remind the board that based on this vote, this project moves forward or does not move forward. What I will tell you is the comments that I've heard in meetings is that this is very indefensible for us. And I know you don't like to hear that because it's lawsuit related and we don't try to, we're not into that business, but the opinion was that it would be very difficult at the state level to justify not allowing this height requirement. And with that being said, Doctor, do you have any comments or concerns or anything you can add to that conversation?
Sure, you've kind of just covered it already. So.
Right, okay. So, I mean, really, it was pretty simple, it was pretty straightforward, but it was basically that this is not really a defensible position for us, and that it was advised that we would approve this one, because it would be able to move the remainder of the project forward intact as is, with the agreed-upon modifications that we have. If we do not agree upon this particular one, then the applicant can just forego this process and go straight to the state. So that means whatever I'll call it progress that we've made in terms of the perimeter and the different, all the other changes, including the efforts of the Board of Selectmen for the time that they negotiated with them, is all pretty much out the window at this point. So I just want you to take that into consideration.
Mr.
Chairman, if I may.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Garabedian, but I'm happy to defer if you wish to go first.
Were you going to talk about the height and that waiver or something else?
No, something much more dramatic, so you go first.
I have something on
I was
that.
just going to kind of ask and point out, Mr. Chairman, the problem is that height, as far as 40B is concerned right now, is a local interest, correct? And because we're under that 10%, the regional need for housing outweighs that local interest of height.
Correct.
So that's the reality of the position we're in right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that's the legal way to put it, I suppose, or the correct legal language. So, to you?
And yeah, if I could through the chair as well. I think in one of the earlier hearings, I had asked Mr. Vinicasa very early on about changing the height, essentially getting rid of like the whole top floor of all of the buildings in an effort to make the neighbors happy. And if I recall, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if I recall, your response was that typically in these kind of projects, like these numbers, these sizes of buildings is very typical for the 40B. Now that we have Judy here, I wonder if I could just ask Judy to comment, would you agree, and I guess maybe this is more for the audience, but 40B projects don't look like Vinyl Street. They don't look like the guy that just came with 4 units. That they just don't look like that. I know you guys want them to, believe me, I want them to, but they do not look like that. I get it. I do understand, but from the 40B projects that I have seen across the state, this is what they look like. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to be told that I am wrong. But for rent, yes, for rental, right, right. I mean, you know more than any of us about the 40Bs, and is this the typical sort of, like it or not, which I don't, for the record, but.
So, I always hesitate to call any 40B typical.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
I'll take
simply
that
going to
back.
say that with rental developments, you're apt to see far more density than you would in a development that's providing home ownership units, and you're going to see more height. It's just, it's a different product. It's serving a different group of households, so.
Mr. Chambers, sir?
Thank you, through the chair. So we've heard from the developer that this is not economically feasible, but have we actually done any research for what economically feasible is by reducing that size? I know he's asking for a variance and says, oh, we couldn't make the money, but has pro forma been done to show that they need that whole level, the top floor, in order to make this economically feasible, or are we just accepting the word of the developer without the financial background?
So what I can tell you, and I'm going to defer to the town for this after as well, but what I can tell you is that the state does those calculations with the applicant and through their process. I don't believe the town is required to or would spend the money on that, to be honest with you, but I'm going to defer to the town, but I believe this has already been all worked out with the state, correct?
Through the chair, and I'll also defer to the consultant. The state has certain requirements with the financials. It's a limited profit company. They can only make so much profit. So there are strict requirements regarding that. The town has not done any research, and my knowledge, I've never done research on any project, if it's financially viable or not. We don't necessarily have the capacity or the access to those statistics, which sometimes cost money.
Mr. Garabedian.
Mr. Chairman, just if I remember correctly, at the first meeting we had you here, Judy, we kind of talked about having a pro forma, and one of our problems was we were pretty late in the process at that point. We were at February, so we only had 3 months left, and the pro forma can either hurt you or help you, where if they do get a pro forma that says this is unfeasible, they have the silver bullet when they go to the state to appeal if we deny something, saying, of course, look, this is unfeasible. So it's a double-edged sword that could have worked against us or for us if we had requested a pro forma. I think that was your question, Mr. Chambers, right? If we had done a pro forma.
I just want to make sure that the board has the information. If they're granting a waiver based on saying it's not economically feasible to drop the height by reducing the floors, and we have no proof of that, we're just taking a developer at their word without actually having that information. So to give up and, for a lack of a better word, leverage to change our bylaws or allow a variance on that without having that information seems like it hurts us without knowing or knowing it. And again, I'm just asking.
Sure.
He says it's not economically feasible to do it. What does that mean, economically feasible? Because one of the buildings is designed for a 3-story. And a 4-story does require an elevator, but you can put an elevator in a 2-story if you'd like as well. That goes back to the cost. So when you add that third story or 4th story, you have to, by building code, allow for that accessibility. But you can certainly put it in a 3-story or a 2-story building as well. So that's not necessarily a benefit. It's a cost analysis, and they do it because that 4th story gets them more money. And again, I don't know the facts, whether it hurts or helps. I'm just asking if you guys have that information to give up a variance on something where the only reason to not do it from the developer side is it's not economically feasible, but that information hasn't been shared.
It has not. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons it probably has not as well, and I'm just thinking back over this project, is keep in mind that we're already on waiver time by about a week. We asked for the extension of this applicant last month. It was only about a week, so we're only 7 days out today. But every time we proceed past this, he still has, the applicant still has the ability to say, we're no longer going to agree to this extension with you that we're negotiating through, we're going to go to the state. Which again, so what we're up against here is matter of fact, is a time crunch as well. So we're trying to get all this wrapped up as well as we can, most efficiently, most effectively, most correctly in a short period of time, because we're up against the wall, so to speak.
So, Mr. Chair, could it be conditioned that the waiver is granted upon showing that it is not economically feasible to reduce the size or that fourth floor?
No.
Thank you. I'm just going to say, can I refer to our consultant on that one? So that was pretty much a no. Is there any explanation with that, or just a no?
The purpose of the comprehensive permit, if it's approved, is to give the applicant the ability to go and get a building permit based on the factors that the board is allowed to consider under the statute. So if you're going to entertain an argument about economics, you need to do it long before this point in the hearing. It's just too late. I mean, I don't mean to be difficult, really, I don't, but it's just too late.
Right. Okay. Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, I just, so these 40Bs are 4 stories generally, right? So, I mean,
They
so
are.
you have to build them in areas where they fit. This does not fit here. You know, 4-story buildings in people's backyards, narrow roads, you're going to have traffic, and it encroaches on the neighbors, something terrible. So if they have to be 4 stories, they have to be put in an area where they fit. And to me, this does not fit at all. I mean, safety issues, encroaching on neighbors, I mean, it's a terrible location. If you need all these waivers, it obviously doesn't fit. That's my feeling on the
Okay. Thank you.
process here.
Mr. Chacolo, sir.
Not at this moment.
Ms. Roach?
Nope.
I'm waiting to jump back in.
Yeah, I was waiting for
I opened the door for
him.
Mr. Garabedian,
Sorry.
and then this happened. But with respect to Mr. Lodges, I'm going to jump back into, I just want for clarification, Mr. Chairman, you said it a couple of different times. So you mentioned that we've been advised on, we're still talking about the roof, right?
All we're talking about is whether or not...
Still the roof.
We're not voting on this project
Right,
tonight,
right,
let's be
right,
clear, at least right now. Let me
Yeah.
put it that way. I'm not going to say tonight or ever, right now. All we're talking about is whether or not we are going to go with the roof.
Talking about the roof.
Height.
So, right, so you would mention that we had been advised that this, we had been advised to approve this waiver.
Correct.
Whom made that?
So it was the town attorney, quite frankly.
Okay, so,
Upon review of the totality of the circumstances, the information he has before him now, the understanding of the 40B process, and the fact that we have all of these conditions already built in, and I'm just trying to explain what was discussed, and then the concept that we're on borrowed time right now.
okay, no, you had me, yes.
Gotcha. No, it's okay.
No, you had, yeah, no.
But I want all these folks to know,
No,
too.
that's fine. And then, just not wanting to stick here, but you had mentioned a couple of different times that, I mean, look, that the risk, we've been well-trained on 40B up to this point, quite frankly. And, I mean, I know a fair amount about risk. I'm a risk manager for a living, and it's something we weigh. So from a risk perspective, you'd mentioned, I just wanted for clarification and for everybody to understand, is that, if this particular, if the height restriction was not waived, and you had said that would kill the project from our perspective, and then the applicant would go back to the state. Isn't it true, Mr. Chairman, that the process that would ensue is that the applicant would have an opportunity to essentially sue the town? There isn't a process whereby the applicant goes directly to the state for an approval, correct?
The applicant would appeal to the Housing Appeals Committee. If he didn't agree with the board's decision, that's what he would do.
Right, but he would appeal through a lawsuit, is that correct?
It's an appeal of the decision.
Right.
It's an appeal to the Housing Appeals Committee, which has the authority to uphold or overturn the board's decision.
This is not a court.
Right,
This is not going to go through a legal process. This is going to go through basically a review board that was created by the state that wants housing.
And it has a different standard of review than a court would reviewing a zoning decision, I believe, right?
There's a body of law that governs how comprehensive permit appeals are reviewed, and that is handled by the Housing Appeals Committee. And then if the Housing Appeals Committee issues a decision that the town isn't happy with, the town can go on and appeal beyond that. Or the developer can appeal beyond the Housing Appeals Committee if he's not happy. But it's like an administrative court, if you will, for lack of a better way to
Okay,
describe it.
but, I mean, and I think we're talking around the term, but for someone that is not an attorney, I think it's fair to say that appeals process is a legal process.
It's a legal process, absolutely. It's provided for in the statute.
And that process can take time?
Yeah, it can. I mean, yeah, it can. There's usually a mediation process that is required before you actually get into the, a hearing with the Housing Appeals Committee, trying to resolve things.
Okay, so then I'll retract, Mr. Chairman, and I'll end with, so perhaps not a lawsuit, right? But certainly a legal process. It's not a turnkey back to the state. There is a legal process that needs to be pursued if, in fact, we downturn this waiver or the project in total,
Yeah, the applicant would appeal to the Housing Appeals Committee.
which is a legal process.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I think when we've been referring to appeal to the state, most of the time, we've been meeting the Housing Appeals Committee since it is an arm of the state. It's not the same as a court where there's the independence from the state government.
And can I also just echo Mr. Garabedian's earlier comments that we are at 5.4% of our inventory, and we are not at the state 10%, which would put us again at a different scenario. So the reason why we don't, again, and I don't agree with it, but I think it's the way he well explained it, regional needs is going to overweigh what we want. And that's what's likely going to happen. So I think that's, am I correct by saying that again? I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to reiterate your words.
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah,
We don't have a timeline to meet the 10%, correct?
well,
We don't have to meet it next week or next year?
But until we meet the 10%,
You're in this
every
position.
applicant is going to be, the regional concern is going to outweigh the local concerns. Once we reach the 10%, we can assert height as a concern. We can assert these other local concerns.
it doesn't sit well, but this is the way they wrote the law. I know, I understand that.
It changes where the burden is.
Picture it as a scale. And when you're below 10%, you got regional need on one side of the scale and local concerns on the other. So when you're under 10%, the regional need has more weight. Once you're over 10%, the local concerns have more weight.
So builders can target towns that are under the 10% and just come in and do what they want.
That's what's happening
That's what we're going through right now.
right now.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We can deny on safety, but right now, we're not talking about that. That would be talked about at a vote on this hearing in general. Right now, we are talking only about giving them the height requirement. If we give it to them, we go forward, we vote on the other waivers, and we still have to take a vote on the overall project.
Right. Thank you. And we still have other issues to discuss, by the way, this evening when it
Yes.
comes to the
Yes, we do.
comprehensive permit. So we still have two other items to cover and the comprehensive permit to cover, and we haven't gotten past the first one yet.
And this.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
That's part of this
yeah.
comprehensive permit in
Yeah.
Part B.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So there are as much as I know that everybody is hinging on this as if an opportunity to, I'm going to say what it seems like, an opportunity to walk away from the project, this is not the one, is what I'm going to say.
Agree.
What I would absolutely advise the board as the chair, and I never do this, and I don't think I've ever done it. If I have, I apologize. I would personally advise the board to approve this particular height requirement as much as it pains me, because it's going to put us into a position, after we proceed past this, to have several other conversations that this project is still going to have to make hurdles on. And what that will do is, it will safeguard the work that the Board of Selectmen and ourselves has put up to this project for the last year-ish between the two. So, that's really all the advice I can give you. That's what I would recommend to the board. I recommend that this particular one get approved and then we look at the rest of them and move forward, because this is not going to stop our final vote on the project. This is just a procedural, and again, every single one, if you go to Millbury, you go to Berlin, you go to West Boylston and Boylston, I've driven by them. They're all the same, they're cookie cutters, they're all the same. So we don't even have anything to stand on as far as that goes.
This is a tough spot.
I know it is. But again, we're not even into the spot, we're just at the roof height right now.
Right.
Private road, there's
And
There's got to be a better spot for it, as far as I can.
Agreed. Do you want, anybody else want to add anything?
On the height?
Well, on our current conversation. I mean, the only thing I can do now is table it, move on to the others, and we can come back and take a five, you know.
I would, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
All right.
Can I make the suggestion that, I mean, we've fully vetted this and rounded the conversation, and I'll take some responsibility for that as usual. But I'd like to, I'd like us to take a vote at this point on this waiver.
On this waiver,
Oh, wow.
you on the roof line.
We're still talking about the roof,
Yeah,
right?
we are. Yep. Still talking about the roof.
So,
We were going to table it and move on, but
but but if you're ready to move, are you ready to move?
I'm ready to move, Mr. Chairman, on this one.
Anybody else? Any other comments?
I'd be happy to take one final comment.
One final
from the
comment, that's it, and then we're gonna move on.
I have two. One comment, one question. Building number 1, 3 stories. How can we say it's not feasible to go from building number 1 to building number 2, 4 stories, building number 3, 4 stories? Why can't we make them all look the same? 3 stories across the thing. And just for the record, Selectman Corrine did a lot of negotiating, and they pulled away from the table. So it wasn't the town. And I don't know if anybody, you know, who's watching or the rest of the board knows that. Selectman Crane did some really good negotiating in good faith.
Understood.
And they pulled the plug.
I have,
So I don't think we should hold that against the town for the timeline. You know, I don't think let me rephrase that. I don't think we should be under the gun for the timeline.
But we are.
And I agree with you, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
I do agree.
I know, but we are.
Yes, sir.
It's a separate timeline as well. It's the 6-month timeline from receiving an application that we're running up against. It's not a
Correct, and
timeline for the full
and the
process.
state should be given it a year timeline instead of shoving it down our throat.
It's what 40B says right now.
Yeah,
So,
I understand
I
that.
think it's clear, you know, one of the things I'm going to Mr. Page, I will definitely let you speak. I just don't want you to have to sit there with your arm up. So I will definitely hold your spot for you. Understood. Believe me, I think we've all gone on the record. We all know that we're not fans of this project, but I think we've stated from the beginning, we're going to play by the rules that we have in front of us until these laws change. We have to. That's what we're here to do. So, you know, I'm just advising the board of what I see. They're going to take their vote and do what they want to do. Whatever we take place tonight is not the end of this project. It's probably, very likely now, obviously going to go to next month, I would think. I still have a couple of things that we have to speak over and talk about, and then, you know, kind of go from there. So I do understand the concerns, but again, I think from a procedurally correct set of steps for the town, that's the advisement that I'm going to give, that this one gets approved. And I hope you can understand this in the long run, and you'll see why.
I do, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Page, sir?
Good evening, Wayne Page, 90 Old Common Road. I've just been listening here to you guys all night. I have anything to do with this project. But it seems like to me that you people are backing down from the state. You're walking back because of the state. You've had people on this board that said tonight that it's not a fit for where it's going. And you asked the guy that has a project, won't move, to help out, as far as lowering the building. I mean, it just seems like, why are you guys here? You even gonna vote? Because there's no sense in it. If you're just gonna vote because the state makes you do it, that's wrong. You're here for the people in this town of Auburn, not for the state. And one thing you can say, that you had the backbone to say no, and then when it gets approved by the state, then you can say it was the state's fault. It wasn't your fault. But here tonight, the way I've been hearing everything all night long, it's the state this, the state that, the state this, the state... The hell with the state! Excuse the language. But the hell with them. Have some nerve. Whew, that was close. Have some nerve and vote against this project. Thank you.
Mr. Page?
Yes, sir.
For many years, you and I have had different opinions, and I do not say this is not one that we do not share. I agree with you 100%, but again, I have to do what is required of the town. I respect your opinion. I know that you're passionate about the town as well as I am, but we have to abide by the rules, and I understand. So
But there's-
what we're doing here is the process, and we'll see how the vote goes.
One other thing. If there was no problem with the rules, he wouldn't be here. So there is a problem with the rule.
I don't disagree with
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thanks.
Mr.
You're
Chair.
welcome. Okay, one more time around the horn. So,
Mr. Chair, just,
go ahead.
it might be helpful to the board to sort of assess where you are in this process.
Hold on 1 second, please. We can't keep talking while we have other people going.
It might be helpful to the board to assess where you are in this hearing process. The question that I think you need to wrestle with at this point is, do you have the information you need to make a decision?
We do.
So when you're at the point where you have the information that you need, up or down, I'm not commenting on what the decision should be, I'm just saying the evidence. And there may be disagreements about what the evidence leads you to do, but is there information you need that you don't already have? Because if you do have the information you need, then you can close the hearing and take 40 days to figure out are you going to approve this project or not. If there's information you still need, then you hold the hearing open. But you don't, there's this point, I think, of kind of no return with these public hearings where you have the information, you have an opinion, and you're entitled to the opinion. You're just entitled as a board to decide whether to approve this project, turn it down, or approve it with conditions. But at some point, the hearing ends. And I think you got to decide tonight, what technical information do we need that we don't already have?
I do have some coming up once we get past this one.
That's fine.
But I know, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to keep us on, I don't want to continue to add to the conversation until we can get
I understand.
this layer of the onion peeled off
I
first.
understand, but I think part of it is just everybody needs to understand that there's this point when you have all the information, you may not know what you're going to do with it yet, but you have the information. And I think that's, before you close the, end tonight, I think you've got to have that conversation.
I agree. Thank you very much for their input, too.
Problem.
Yes, sir.
So they don't have the financial information, and you set up here and said, no, they cannot deny or condition without having the financial information. So if the finances say that they need that fourth story, then there's no conversation, but they haven't seen that information.
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to say the following. The applicant does not have to agree to keep this hearing open. If you're going to have a conversation about a financial pro forma, it needs to happen long before this point. That's what I'm saying, sir. So please just, everybody hear me on this. I'm not saying that the board shouldn't have a pro forma. I'm not saying the board isn't entitled to it. I'm saying it's too late. That's my answer.
I think I can comment a little bit on that. By the time the board found out we could ask for the pro forma, we were already past that point. We will not make that mistake again on a 40B. But at this point, my understanding is that we're past that.
Thank you. No, I wasn't trying to argue. It's just,
Nope.
she said if you don't have the information,
Nope.
but financial information apparently isn't relevant at this point.
I think if you tune in to future hearings, the pro forma will be being asked for.
The problem with the pro forma discussion, if I could just maybe try to help shed some light on this, is that you don't get to review a pro forma. You review a pro forma when the board asks the applicant to make some change to the project, and the applicant says, I can't do that. It's uneconomic. So it's hard to do that in the second hearing or the third hearing. And so the longer the hearing goes on, the more you're kind of running out of time. But the pro forma only becomes an issue in these projects if the board asks the applicant to make a change and the applicant says, I can't do that. And that's the point when the board can say, prove it to us. Give us a pro forma that shows what the economic impact will be of this change we're asking for. Then the applicant comes back with a pro forma at the next month's hearing, and now the board has to hire a consultant to review it. And all of this takes time. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, that you're at the end here on this clock.
And we're limited to 6 months. Again, I'm sure that's no coincidence.
Yep, through the chair, is it possible to ask the applicant to provide it and extend the timeline?
Well, we can certainly ask, but I wouldn't want to make it a deal breaker, though. I mean, that's the other issue. We can say, no, thank you, and just, I'm out.
Certainly, it doesn't hurt to ask if he's willing, if that's something that's holding it up, unless they feel, again, maybe
Well,
their
what I would like
chances
to
are
do,
better.
I think, we've had enough conversation about this, we know how everybody feels about it. What I would like to do is bring it back to the board, let's make them decide, or let's let them decide, not make, how they want to handle the situation, and then I can present a lot more information after this, depending on which way it goes, that I think would make some things become a little more clear. So with that being said, the vice chair had some comments and some action interests to expose, so go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate getting back in here. We're still talking about the roof.
Roof. I just want to be clear. We are talking, which one
Building
now?
height.
Height, yeah, right here.
Yep,
30.
right here, multifamily district, maximum height dwelling of 35 feet, waiver to allow 45.
Okay, so before we move forward with a potential motion, just a point of procedure. I want to acknowledge that Mr. Chacolo was physically absent for the last two meetings, but I understand that Mr. Chacolo, again, for the record, has reviewed those meetings and has satisfied the
Mullins rule.
rule.
Mullen, yes.
And so I just want to make that acknowledged, that he would be able to be a full voting member on this hearing this
Through the chair,
No,
we can only, I just found this out, you can only lose one hearing.
yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again?
You can only miss one hearing.
That's right.
The Mullins rule
is
only
very
allows
clear.
one missed hearing. If it's two, you cannot vote. That's true. That happened to me last year. That's true.
Right.
Mr. Chacolo cannot vote.
Yes, but you-
Yeah, but they say if
For
you miss two,
educational.
right.
Yeah.
You can
but
miss
weren't
one hearing.
physically here for both. Excuse me, yes, so you were allowed to miss one physically.
Right.
I was out of the country.
But you can only miss one meeting. That's the law.
It's the rule.
On each on any one.
On the matter before the board, you can miss one hearing.
Right.
So, Mr. Chairman, congratulations are in order that Mr. Chacolo does not actually have to take a vote on this hearing.
He does not.
So
So,
I'm not allowed to vote on this hearing, which has taken God knows how long.
I'm just trying to tell you how the Mullins rule works, that's all.
True.
Is that part of a 40B?
no,
It's
that's,
not- nothing to
Mullen rule
do
is
with
something
40B.
completely different.
Okay.
So in that instance, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm going to suggest that we bring
Ms. Bush forward
Ms. Bush forward
as a full voting
as
member
a
on
full
this,
voting.
correct.
Thank you, sir.
I missed 2 hearings, too.
Pretty sure Ryan has missed 2 hearings as
I'm
well.
double checking. I know I missed one. I thought I was at the October one, so I think I've only missed one, but I am double
I
checking.
missed the December and the March one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've only missed one. And I did review that. I missed the February one. I was at the March one.
I did review them, but
I've missed 2.
You missed 2, that's what I thought. I know you missed 2.
I missed January 2.
So, Mr. Chairman, for this hearing, we are down to
4 of us.
4 voting members, which in itself implies a simple majority or a supermajority for this
Simple,
hearing.
simple majority.
Simple majority.
Simple
So
majority.
a simple 3 to 1. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Chairman.
And honestly, thank you very much for bringing that up. That's
Yeah.
something that I did not anticipate, and we just clarified that could have been detrimental in the
Mr.
future, so
Chairman.
thank you very much.
So point of order on that. the
1
one-
second, please, sir.
That means I wasn't eligible last meeting to vote on the waivers we granted.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk to the town for a minute. Could I have Ms. Coyle come up for a second? So I think, to be procedurally correct here, that I would recommend, with all of this new information here, that we should probably stop this hearing now and wait until next month, if the applicant would be so agreeable, or we can continue with what we have. But I feel as though it would be not as prudent for all parties concerned.
Wait, actually, it looks like I only missed one. I'm sorry for the mess. I see the
Mr.
February
Chairman, if
meeting.
you waited till next month, what would that change?
Because we need legal advisement. I'm not gonna have people that have 1, 2, 3 violations of Mullen rules, and we make a wrong vote, and then this whole thing blows up in the air. And then I'm gonna end up with another open meeting law violation, that'll be number 5.
Yeah, I mean,
So I guess for myself, I mixed up January and February in my head. I was at the February meeting, I missed the January meeting, and I thought it was vice versa. So I think I've only actually missed one.
you missed 2.
Still 2, it doesn't have to be consecutive, it can be just 2.
But I was in October, November, December, February, March, and now April.
So you
I've only
missed
missed one.
January.
I missed January, which was one meeting.
Ma'am?
Through the chair. So with this new information, obviously, there's a lot happening here. With the members identifying that if, with this Mullen rule, you can only miss one meeting, we're going to check and see if the minutes are reflective of what members were there. So we can take a look at that. If we could maybe take a few minutes so that we can kind of check ourselves.
Before we dismiss this evening-
I'm sorry. If we can also have the input from Ms. Barrett, because she's honestly the most experienced person in the room as far as
I agree.
what the advisement should be, and it appears that Mr. Benacasa may be willing to continue to the next
Sure.
meeting.
Let's
But
have Judy speak, and then,
if we can just give us a few minutes, we'll see if we have that
absolutely.
I mean,
together.
if you can determine this evening what the attendance has been since the beginning, maybe the board just takes a 10-minute recess and allows staff to go and determine that.
Right,
You
that's
may
what I was
not
gonna
need to
do.
continue this hearing at all. You may just need to recess for a few minutes.
It's not.
All right, so what I'd like to do right now is, as the chair is, I'd like to suspend all discussion right now before we proceed and make anything more complicated. And I'd like to ask for a brief recess for the town side literally to go and examine some minutes to make sure where we are with these Mullen rules first.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to go into brief recess.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Recess, we'll take it and go from there. Okay, go. All right, good evening. So, we're back, and can I have a motion to come out of recess, please?
Mr. Chairman, motion to come out of recess?
Do I have a second?
I second it.
You can, yes, you can. You can technically second it, yes, thank you.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So interestingly enough, we had a lot of questions about who is available to vote tonight. So we sat in the back, reviewed everything, just for the record, so we all know moving forward. Officially, Ms. Bush has missed 3 as an alternate, but she is, again, she's an alternate, so that's not that big a deal, but she cannot vote. Mr. Chacolo missed 2. So as a primary member, he cannot vote. Ms. Rhodes missed 2. So as a primary member, she cannot vote. Mr. Garabedian missed 1. So as an alternate, we can bring him forward for this vote. Okay, so that's just to be clear on how it goes.
Who can vote, right.
Now, the issue was, because we're trying to make sure that we do this correctly, because, you know, we're going to move into next month. We're going to have to reschedule the meeting for next month, it looks like, because Mr. Garabedian is not available on the 3rd Thursday of the month. And since we are available, generally speaking, but he's our linchpin in this, we need to be available when he is. So our next meeting was going to be scheduled, or is going to be scheduled, for May 22nd at 6 p.m. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Town side, am I correct on that date? I just want to double check with you.
You got to advertise that, correct?
Well, yeah, that's why we're doing it
Tom
now,
will do
so
it.
we can get moving, like, and we can make it official.
May 26th, that's the fourth Thursday. Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. So May 22nd is the 4th Thursday of the month, not the 3rd Thursday of the month. So I just want to make sure that's how it will be advertised, that's how it will be taken care of. So that will make sure that we'll have Mr. Garabedian here for this evening and for what will likely be a final vote next month.
And Ms. Roach and Mr. Chacolo and Ms. Bush, we can go have our pizza.
Yes, you can have pizza.
You can go have your pizza,
Well, you have to
yes,
save some for
true.
us afterwards, though. Okay, so with that being said, I would like to proceed back to the original 2 hours ago roof issue we were talking about here. So, to recap, we know who's going to be voting now. It's going to be Mr. Cussy, my vice chair, myself, and Mr. Garabedian, and then we're going to go back to whether or not we're going to discuss this roof height. So we were left off with whether or not we have Mr. Maron's words on whether it was going to be a motion or a discussion on this roof height challenge.
So, Mr. Chairman, we are talking about the roof.
Correct.
I would appreciate if we could now move forward with a vote on the waiver for the roof.
We can. We first need a motion, and then we can take a vote.
Mr. Chairman, could you please assist me in putting that waiver in front of me?
I can. So we are at 9361, 9.3.6.1, multifamily dwellings in the RA district. There is a maximum dwelling height of 35 feet. The waiver is to allow a multifamily dwelling height of 45 feet.
Mr. Chairman, on the waiver requested at 9361, waiver to allow a multifamily dwelling height of 46 feet. I vote to approve. I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. So we'll do I have a motion to approve on the height.
Who
So
seconded it?
we have
Not allowed to second.
I am.
he is, because he was moved up to
As
a
an
full...
alternate,
He's moved up to a full voting member because he's the only one that can do the vote.
right.
the Mullen Rule.
Even, he's a full voting member
He is for this particular purpose, yes.
for this particular purpose?
For the rest of Perry Place, the only people that are allowed to vote are myself, Mr. Chacolo, or not Mr. Chacolo, Mr. Marin, Mr. Cussy, and the chairman.
Correct.
Okay, that's even tonight.
Correct.
From now on,
Correct, for this
ad
particular hearing.
infinitum.
Correct. Okay, so I have a second from the vice chair, and I have a motion from the vice chair, a second from Mr. Garabedian. Vice chair, how do you vote?
I approve.
Just to make sure. Mr. Garabedian?
I approve.
Ms. Roach?
I'm out.
Not Ms.
Oh, that's right, I apologize. See, here we are. And I vote to approve.
Mr. Cussy, you need Mr. Cussy.
Mr. Cussy?
I deny.
Okay, so we have a 3-1. It still proceeds because of the conditions with the vote. So the roof situation has been resolved. So the next one is
The building, the amount of buildings.
Right, okay, so multifamily dwellings in the RA, we're at 9363, waiver to allow 3 multifamily dwellings units on the lots. Do I have a motion to approve or deny? Again, this is not a deal breaker, but it's just a waiver to allow 3 multifamily dwellings.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make that motion to approve.
Do I have a second? I can't second, so. Thank you. So I have a second, so obviously we know how that goes. Vice Chair Maron? Mr. Garabedian, and I vote to approve, 9363. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Cussy?
I deny.
Deny, thank you. I apologize for that a second time, humbly. So then we have 9364 multifamily dwellings in the RA district. No single dwelling structure contains more than 12 apartment units or more than 8 attached houses in the RA-RB districts. Waiver to allow 64 apartment units and a single dwelling structure in the RA district. Do I have a motion to approve or deny?
Mr. Chairman, on 9364, I'll make a motion to deny.
Thank you. So I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny. Vice Chair Maron, how do you vote? Mr. Cussy, how do you vote?
Deny.
Mr. Garabedian, how do you vote?
Approve.
And I vote to approve. It doesn't move forward regardless because it's a tie vote. So the rest of the waivers are complete to my best of my knowledge and ability. Is that correct?
As far as I remember, we got through all of them, and one of them was also a 2-2 split to deny, so it was denied.
Correct. Okay, that is correct. Okay. So with that being said, we have gotten through our waivers.
Mr. Chairman, just a point, with the last waiver we denied, I'm assuming that that's going to end or kill the application, for lack of a better word, just like the height, because they're now limited to between 8 and 12 apartment units per building. So
I'm going to defer to Judy, is that correct? Because I was told these would not kill the project, only the roof
I
one.
can't comment on what's going to kill the project. I'm simply saying that,
Understood.
you know, the applicants requested a waiver from that rule because ostensibly, you know, that's not what he's proposed. The board can approve or deny the waiver. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, no, understood, but it doesn't stop this proceeding from moving forward.
You got to continue.
Right, correct, okay, thank you, that's what I thought.
Just through the chair?
Yes.
So with that one where it was,
second, please.
sorry, where it was split, so what happens?
It just, it doesn't move forward.
it was denied.
It's denied, basically. A split is a denial.
It's a denial.
It is.
It is.
Wouldn't that kill the
Oh,
project?
wait, we messed up the way we worded it, where we, remember last meeting, we had this discussion of we should always move in the positive manner, because a rejection of a positive motion is a denial, but this was a negative motion.
Always move in the affirmative.
But wouldn't?
So how would that be worded then? What do you mean?
He would move to grant the waiver, and then the vote would be either to approve.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. So I did say a vote to approve or deny, so it would be a vote to grant the waiver, and then it was in denial. Is that what you're saying?
We had this problem last meeting where because all we did was we didn't approve the motion to deny, we didn't actually decide anything. If we had didn't approve a motion to approve, that's a denial. We had this discussion with the...
Someone just needs to make a motion to approve the waiver.
All right, so I do have a motion to approve the waiver. Do I have a motion to approve the waiver?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know we covered this ground before, at the risk of holding us here. I disagree. We reversed a vote for this very reason last time. The motion was raised to deny.
And it's split, so we didn't actually make a decision on that. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I disagree that a motion that's raised to deny, that's split in a tie, should go to the primary question. The primary question was answered as a denial. So if you're at a split vote, and it goes to a 2-2, and I've denied, and the motion was to deny, it should go to the deny because that was the question.
The question was to deny, and because there's no majority in either direction, last meeting we had discussed, that means that there's nothing. It's technically denying a denial, is what we did.
It's much cleaner.
Double negative is what he's saying.
I'm not trying to complicate your lives. I'm just trying to help you get through this.
Correct.
The cleanest way to do this is to always make a motion in the affirmative, and then if it goes down,
Right.
it's denied.
Deny it.
And
So-
it's clean, there's no question, that's what the board did.
Understood. So I would like a motion to strike the last motion. May I please have that? And I'll reword it from there.
Through the chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to make sure that we are clear about what's happening, with Ms. Barrett's advisement, can we retake these votes so that it's clear for the minutes and we have an accurate documentation about what it is that the board is voting?
We can. All right, so
Please.
what I'd like
Thank
to
you.
do then quickly, I can do this quickly if we all kind of move along. May I have a motion to strike the last three decisions?
I think we'd only need to strike one because...
I'm just going to do them all again. We're going to do them all again, and we're going to make sure they're worded correctly. I think that's the best way, prudent moving forward, and I can do it much quicker if we can do it like that.
Move to strike all three of the last decisions we just made.
Correct. Do I have a second on that? Second. So all in favor? Aye, 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 aye. Okay, so all those have been struck from the record. So I'm going to start over again. We have a 9361 multifamily dwelling in the RA district, maximum dwelling height of 35 feet. We need a waiver to allow a multifamily dwelling unit in the height of 45 feet. Is there a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we're going to have a vote on this then. So Vice Chair Maron. Mr. Cussy.
Deny.
Mr. Garabedian.
Approve.
And myself voted to approve. 9362, multifamily dwelling unit in the RA district. The lot contains not less than 10,000 square feet per dwelling unit, and the residence A, residence office, local business highway, business districts. Waiver, no, I'm sorry, strike that one. 9363, multifamily dwelling in the RA district. Only one multifamily dwelling structure per lot is allowed. Waiver to allow 3 multifamily dwelling units on the lot. Do I have a motion to approve the waiver?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Vice Chair Maron. Mr. Cussy.
Deny.
Mr. Garabedian.
Approve.
And I vote to approve. 9364, multifamily dwellings in the RA district. No single dwelling structure contains more than 12 apartment units or more than 8 attached houses in the RA and RB districts. Waiver to allow 64 apartment units and a single dwelling structure in the RA district. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Hearing none, seeing none.
Mr. Chair, you may need to second it yourself.
To the chair, you do not need to agree or disagree with the motion. You just need to second it.
Correct.
Whoever makes the second does not need to agree with the motion.
Can I make a second? Technically, by the chair, I believe I've never done that.
Second it?
All right, I'll second it. For the purpose of the vote and to move forward, I'll make the second. So do I have a vote on the 64 apartment units in a single dwelling for RA district? Vice Chair Maron.
Deny.
Mr. Cussy.
Deny.
Mr. Garabedian.
Approve.
And I would approve. But again, it stays as is. But at least we are all in the affirmative now. So they are correct. Okay. With that being said, these should be technically and legally correctly handled. Would you agree?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, to move on now.
I think the applicant did have a question, though, before we had this whole procedural...
So I guess in your opening statement with the 64 units, you said that one wasn't a deal breaker with the project, but...
The way it was described to me during the meeting, it would not prevent you from being able to complete the project, and that was...
The 64 units.
Do we have anything from the town side?
That's the waiver they're asking for. The bylaw allows 12 per building.
Right. All right.
I'm not allowed, if it kicks it down to only 12,
Right.
I could go 12 four-story high.
If the board denies that waiver,
Yeah.
then you have to comply with the zoning bylaw.
Okay. Well,
Right, so that would kill the project. Then we just go to the...
And again, I'm going to advise the board, and I know these votes are not favorable to you, but there is a plan in place that is incomplete without these steps. So if you're happy with where this stands now, that's completely fine. But I just want to let you know that, again, this negates us back to ground zero. So I'm comfortable to let the board have its thoughts. Okay. All right, well, I think the best course of action here,
Mr. Chairman,
You should consider acting on all the other waivers.
We did.
we did.
Okay,
This
that's
is
it.
That was
That's
the
it.
end of the waivers.
Those are the end of the waivers.
Thank you,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
You may.
My thought process is in this particular waiver was to allow the applicant to rethink how many apartments in a particular building.
No, it's to allow that to happen.
We're telling him he has to be between 8 and 12. That's it right now, since we denied the waiver.
So then, yeah.
He
Unless-
can rethink it, but it's 8 and 12.
Unless the applicant returns and asks for a different waiver.
It would be the same waiver. It's the same bylaw he'd be asking to waive. If he came back with 40 apartment units per building, he'd still have to waive that bylaw.
I
Because
agree, but we would be waiving 40 instead of 64.
I think that's your position, is that the waiver might be more palatable if you were starting from a smaller number in the first place. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Make it confused.
So I guess,
We're not gonna get to that.
I guess Mr. Maron's point is you could come back with less apartments per building and ask for the waiver again, but at that lower unit count. Am I stating your position correctly, Mr. Maron?
My intention is to have the builder, the applicant, rethink his position on asking for all of 64 per building. That's my position. That's his option
And I
at this
can't
point.
Would he be
reiterate
able to
enough
at this
that we're
point,
out of
though,
time.
also? Yeah,
We're out of time.
We
I
can-
need you to understand all that.
we can either close the public meeting, like at some point tonight, and we get 40 days to file the decision, or because the hearing's been open for 6 months, he doesn't have to sign off on another waiver of his right of a constructive approval.
Correct. So if
Without
this
that-
vote stays as is now, the applicant can walk away. I just want to be clear, the stakes that are on the table.
Without that waiver, there's
I
no
understand
reason
the
to
risk,
continue.
Mr. Chairman.
I do, and I completely respect everyone's decision, and we've done this for a long time. but-
I well understand the risks, and I come to this place with a great deal of discussion and a great deal of knowledge. Look, we have, and I'll just end on this. This project in total, in my view, goes back succinctly to the feasibility. And the board originally that was allowing this to be called a feasible project. And in my view, there was no record of that decision that was discussed previously. There were no discussion of qualifications of that board. There were no discussion of how that took place. Other than rumors of respectfully, yeah, I won't engage in that. But the board that originally determined this project to be feasible, in my opinion, was wrong.
What
Was
board
not
made
done
that-
due diligence.
What board made that determination?
Well,
It's
if
not
I
one of our
may,
boards, though.
there was a feasibility done at the state
At the
level
state, yeah.
before this application was even put in.
Sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that at a state level was to look at the property and determine whether or not this application was even feasible to put there.
Yes, they made that determination.
What is that board called now?
It's a project eligibility
Okay,
letter.
thank you. I just couldn't.
That's okay.
In all of my notes, I wrote it down somewhere.
fine.
I'm pretty sure that I burned it in a fire pit a couple of months ago.
Okay.
That board, respectfully, in my humble opinion, did not follow through with an appropriate level of due diligence. I don't have anything to justify that because I don't know the qualifications of those board members, when that was conducted, or whether or not there were any written decisions based on that board. But that board handed us this project.
So can I just to help you out with wording, they're not a board. It's an
thank you.
agent, well, just to be clear, it's an agency, it's a state agency that has the authority to issue a project eligibility letter. So at the staff level, they reviewed the application
Mr.
and
Chairman?
issued the PEO.
Thank you. So
No problem.
Okay, so say that one more time.
It's an agency decision.
Agency, so it's, thank you. So now I understand, that every time I kept saying board, I understand the look.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Good, no, because I'm good with looks. So that agency, in my view, got this wrong.
But they have a
And in my view, this at that level needs to be looked at.
Okay.
I think they have a different standard of review, though. Their standard of review from the training that you gave us is really just to see if they have site control. And
No, they're doing a review for, is the design appropriate for the site? Is the site appropriate for the project? I mean, there are criteria in the regulations. You are correct that there are these threshold decisions, site control being one of them. But there are some qualitative, standards. So I'm not trying to push you one way or the other. I just want to get it clear as to who did what. So you ended up with this project in front of you because a state agency, Mass Housing, issued a project eligibility letter that said, this project, if the Board of Appeals permitted this project, we would fund it. That's essentially what a PEL, project eligibility letter, means.
And my challenge is it landing on our board, my board, that feasibility, got it wrong.
And Mr. Chairman, I
Yes, sir.
asked that
Can you speak
direct
into the-
question.
Can you speak into the mic? You don't, to your mic, just for the record, there.
Sorry.
That's all, I'm sorry.
I asked that direct question, if there was any record of that or a written report, and the answer I got was no.
Well,
Nobody knows
the
what
issuance
happened.
of the PEL is a determination.
What's that?
The issuance of a project eligibility letter is the determination. So you do have that. That's the determination.
Right.
You may not like the record, you may not like the letter, but that is the determination. It's an agency, according to the regulations, reviewed the project and made a series of decisions.
So the answer, when I asked that direct question, the answer I got was incorrect, that there was no record of that.
The record is the project eligibility letter.
That's what you're saying to me now. Okay. But when I asked that direct question, that's not the answer I got.
Okay, I don't know, I can only speak to how the process works, so I'm not going to go there on who said what. I'm just telling you that is how the process works. There is a review for basic feasibility as part of the project eligibility process. When they issue the project eligibility letter, they are saying the site is generally appropriate, the project is generally appropriate, the design is generally appropriate, the applicant has site control, and the project is generally feasible. Everything's generally something.
So they didn't get into detail, like we got into detail.
They never do. They never do.
So they should respect our opinions.
I'm not saying that they should respect or not. I'm just saying that at the
Safety.
agency level, it's a determination, really, how do I say this? The agencies that issue a project eligibility letter are in the business of getting housing built. They are not permitting agencies. So they don't want to step in the shoes of the permitting agency, which is you. Therefore, they are hard-pressed to deny a project eligibility letter. If it meets basic test of approvability, they will issue the PEL, and then it's up to the Board of Appeals to consider the application based on the factors in the statute.
Right, okay.
It's just how the process works.
I'll end on this, Mr. Chairman. I want the board to know, I do respect the work that's been going into this, and for some of the other avenues that are being pursued. But as I stand voting my conscience on, particularly on this waiver, 64 units in a building is too much. And so if that is not an option, I understand the timeout period, I understand the pressure there. But at some point in time, there needs to be raised a question of what's appropriate. This project is not appropriate for these lots. For a variety of reasons that we've all navigated. Some of the things that Judy, Judy, that she articulated that's walked through in that feasibility, it's not a board.
Agency.
The agency, the feasibility agency. Some of the things that she articulated succinctly, we've stepped through some of those topics, which is why I'm even more challenged by it from a feasibility perspective. Because there are things such as access and safety and wetlands and things that we've addressed succinctly that lead me to believe that if proper due diligence was done at that agency, then this would not have moved forward.
Just to clarify, but we are not denying right now on any of those things. We are denying a waiver on the 64 units.
Correct.
We are not denying this project based on safety, the traffic concerns, the location, none of that.
No, they're basing it on building and site design, which is an eligible consideration in the statute.
Right. But we're not saying, when we vote on the entire project.
That's a different matter.
a different
This is
matter.
just a waiver.
Right, on the waiver.
Of many.
Yes,
You may
how many?
still end up deciding to grant the permit, subject to a series of conditions, one of which is the applicant, doesn't get that waiver.
Right. he'd have to redesign.
If I'm hearing you correctly, Megan, this is a very narrow-scoped denial.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, I think the conversations about our concerns about safety is a topic that we talk about when we vote overall on the project. Right now, today, we are talking about the waiver only, and we don't like the units.
So
That's the
it's
vote,
that
that's the vote.
Very narrow scope.
Time to
Right, stick
move
with the
on.
numbers if that's the issue that you have.
Yep.
Then, when the time comes, if the time comes.
Yes.
That there is a final vote on this, that's when you talk about wetland safety or the other particular issues you have. But I really think to bring us back into focus, I think Ms. Roach did that well, it's just that particular thing. But again, we voted on it already. So what we're trying to do now is figure out how to proceed.
Yeah.
So that's where we have to have some conversation with our consultant and the applicant.
Well, I come back to the question, is there information the board needs in order to make a decision that you don't already have in the record?
I guess we open that ourselves by denying this, since it means that the applicant will have to come forward with a new
Well, the
design.
applicant doesn't have to do that.
True.
The applicant doesn't,
Yeah, they don't have to. If-
The applicant can call it
Is there
the board's
clarity
bluff.
on the private road? Is there clarity on the?
But we're not even on that yet, we're not, we can't, we're just discussing.
So I
this
don't
one
have that
particular thing.
information on the road.
Yeah, that's the next
I'm
thing.
talking about technical information to make a decision.
Well, that's technical. The road is like probably one of
That would be legal, in all honesty, that I don't think this board
You
can
can't
wait
adjudicate
2
that
years.
matter. The
Okay.
best you can do,
Hold on one second here. As the chair, I'm going to make I think we are beginning to lose focus on what our mission here this evening is. We're widening our scope to the overall project again, and I think what we need to go back to is that we're just discussing whether or not the validity of the number of units in the buildings right now. We still, if we get past this, then that will be the conversation of private road or not, or conditions or not. We haven't reached that yet. We have to get through this first. So that's why I'm just trying to, advise the board again that we need to narrow the scope, bring it back into where we are, and if we're not going to move forward with this, my opinion is, let's take a break until next month, and let's figure out what the applicant can possibly do, if he's so willing to do, where the town stands legally because of all this, or at least obligation-wise, and then we can reconvene, because we've absorbed a lot of information tonight. So that's what I'm trying to get to. So I would like to hear from the applicant, first of all.
So I guess I would go back to I guess through the chair. What is the number that you feel comfortable with per unit, per building? Because that's really what's going to dictate it, right? Like, so from my standpoint, we already have our eligibility letter. Obviously, we have a clean bill of health from engineering, from safety, from everything. As far as the design, safety, and everything goes, I'm extremely confident, and I don't want to waste the board's time and everybody's time, that if the board's going to say, 10 units per building, or a low number that just isn't going to work, then, we're prepared to win it, obviously, at the next step, and prepared to move forward. So I just wouldn't want to waste everybody's time. I mean, if it's something that's reasonable, that is a negotiation, obviously we're open to, but if it's a big negotiation, then there really isn't any point in extending. I'd rather just go get my permit.
So, again, I think the applicant speaks clearly and succinctly when he's saying, if you don't agree to the number of units, what number of units do you agree to? I think that's pretty much a fair response.
well, just be careful, Mr. Chair, because it's not the board's job to design the applicant's project for him.
Understood. So I think right now then, I can't persuade the people that voted, clearly. I don't think I'm going to get another additional vacate of this particular item. So what I'm going to recommend is that we continue the hearing. We have a lot to take under advisement with, I think the town attorney probably needs to hear some of these things, I'm assuming. I think it would be best interest if you would be interested or inclined to doing so to next month.
Yes.
You could go back and consult with your people, figure out how we're going to handle this and move forward. We can have a discussion. I am going to leave this part of the hearing open as well, because in the event there is new information that is brought forward, we can then vacate this next month, should the board choose. I'm not going to persuade them either way, but I do want to leave that option open for you as well as the applicant. So I want to be clear about that.
Would it be possible, and I guess to Judy, is it possible to, like when we worked with Select Board, there was one person that we kind of had a communication with or a discussions with. Obviously, I know they wouldn't be making the decisions outside, but at least have,
I would recommend that you communicate with the town staff.
just, okay.
I'm sorry, could you say that again,
Town
please?
staff. So, yeah,
I just didn't
Adam.
hear it.
I was asking if there was a point of contact, I think, on the board.
So, yeah, with Adam. Adam's been great to work
I mean,
with.
all I was
Or
just
Dr.
saying
Menard.
was...
Yeah, oh, yeah. I would recommend Dr. Menard, for sure. And again, I think the important part here is to remember, let's leave the lines of communication open.
Okay.
So would you be amenable to coming back on May 22nd?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if that's the case then,
Just real quick, would the applicant also grant the extension of the time for the? Perfect. I just
Yeah.
want to get that
So
on.
if Adam wants,
so with that being said, I think in the interest of fairness, I want to move forward. I want to talk about a couple of other things then before we wrap up tonight. We're going to leave this tabled as is for now, but we're going to continue to move forward in the best interest of all the efforts here. So, getting back to my original statements when I began this part of the hearing this evening, is I said there was 2 meetings that we attended. The first was a red line meeting of the Certificate of Decision Comprehensive Permit, which consisted of making sure we dotted our i's, crossed our t's, and there was basically some other housekeeping things in there that involved parking on site of the construction, managing noise, different things like that. So all of those things are in there, and they're all based on our past experiences. So I was trying to, I can recall Mr. Chambers and, talking about this lip that they had. So during this meeting, I requested a copy of that lip. I wanted to honor the efforts that the Board of Selectmen and the town put forth with all of these negotiations previously. So, and again, I'm reading this to you so you understand. Go ahead. That's okay, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was going to say, are we going to be going through some of this? Because I did have some notes that I would love to go through if timing-wise
We are going to go through
works,
this. I'm going to do the best I can. We'll do it as quickly as I can, too.
Okay, I only had a couple of them. Yep.
So these are the things, so I went through the original lip from, Mr. Corain put numerous hours of activity into this. I think Mr. Carpenter is here as well, I see. So what I wanted to do is, I have to find them again now. Where are they? Because they moved them around again.
4.2, I think.
4.2?
I believe so.
That's not what I'm looking for, but thank you, though. One here, hang on. Okay, so, again, honoring the amount of work that the Board of Selectmen went through, I'm going to hold myself responsible for these particular items, okay? I asked the town to insert these. I'm going to read them off, specifically the ones that I added. I'm also not going to hold you completely accountable to these. I want to make sure that you understand that if you come back before the board next month and you say, some of these things are not reasonable, we're not going to delay your project, and I promise you that. I just want you to know that was not the intention. I'm not throwing a, fourth quarter Hail Mary at you.
If you want, I can tell you the ones that we only had the issues with.
No, I'd rather
Or want to read them
I
all?
just want to read them out into the record, the ones that I pointed out,
Okay.
because I want to hold, I'm not holding the town or the board responsible.
Yep.
I'm kind of taking them myself, so if somebody gets mad, they can get mad at me.
Okay, fair enough.
So, again, trying to honor what the Board of Selectmen did, we I asked to have added was the, developer detail, Perry Place. So some 4254, the installation of a pedestrian-actuated, solar-powered, rectangular, rapid flashing beacon at the existing crosswalk on Auburn Street at its intersection with Perry Place. 4255, installation of ADA-compliant ramps at the existing crosswalk on Auburn Street. 4256.
Mr. Chair, point of order, it's Perry Street in Auburn Street, not Perry Place.
Oh, I'm sorry, yep, you're right, it is in...
Thank you, Mr. Chair, sorry.
Okay, so Perry Street from Auburn Street, okay. The installation of ADA-compliant sidewalks on Perry Street from Perry Place to Auburn Street to Pearl Street to Perry Place to Rockland Road. If sidewalks are deemed not preferred by the DPW director, then construction of the Mass Department of Transportation standards shall be using speed bumps and the speed of 20 miles per hour for a vulnerable roadway user and safety. The standpipe construction per the fire department requirements, again, I understand that's a construction change, and I'm not holding you accountable, but it would be nice for safety. 4258, carbon monoxide and smoke detectors in common areas or anywhere else deemed necessary by the fire department. Installed playground to be open to the public with signage. I don't really care about signage, but install a playground. Provide a non-chain link privacy fence and a landscape plan that will provide screening to the abutters. The landscape element shall be positioned between the fence and the property line. And then I added this one, I pulled this one out, and I'm going to explain why after I read it, so please just take a minute. Contribute $20,000 to the town per year for the first 5 years after issuance of the temporary or permanent certificate of occupancy of at least one building of the project to be used for the community event. So no, again, this is not my suggestion. This was negotiated with the selectmen. But I respect that one particularly because I'm thinking with this, again, I'm looking down the road, if this project is complete, we're going to have the tree lighting ceremony, we're going to have the fireworks, we're going to have the homecoming at and we're going to be able to try to integrate all these things into the community. So these $20,000 stipend, if you will, might be able to be added for RTA buses or vans or different things like that. So I added that. And then we have 4262, which was already there, I believe, install adequate covered bike parking, so if they need bike parking. So with that being said, those are the things I added. You don't have to come back and tell me which ones you approve or don't approve tonight, or if you can, if you want to. Again, I thought it was in the best interest to try to make it more palatable for the folks at home, the town, and everyone involved. So those are the things that I added. Again, you're more than welcome to come back next month and say, we can't do that. I understand, but, okay? Thank you. Any questions from the board on what I added? No. Okay. Comments from the board on what I added?
No.
Okay. And I also want, again, I'm going to say it for the record again, I'm not going to hold the project up because of these, okay? That's not what I intend to do. This is not a Hail Mary. Mr. Largis, you have comments. Go ahead, sir. We'd like to go home at some point, though, so keep them brief.
Well, I would too, and preferably not in 4 years looking at a 66-foot-high building. But $20,000 for 5 years for the town, that's all well and great, but what about the neighborhood? You know, the hell with the town. They're not going to have 2,000 cars driving by their house every day. I mean, these are people over here, these residents here, that his traffic study said they don't walk up and down the street pushing a baby carriage. Well, I got 2 residents sitting right there from Perry Street.
Well, what conditions would you want me to add? I can't give you $10,000 checks. I can't offer you money.
Why is it going to go to the town? Why not to the neighborhood? Why not beautifying something in the neighborhood?
Well,
Never mind the town.
Again, I understand that, but if you look at it, beautification or not, they're improving Perry Place, they're putting a bus stop in there, they're adding all these lights. That is kind of a project, and I get what you're saying.
Mr. Chair, Perry Place is a private street. So what he's doing doesn't matter to us residents.
Mr. Largis, I understand, but you haven't listened to the rest of the presentation yet either.
Okay, my apologies. I'll hold my comments till after, sir.
Thank you.
My apologies.
I appreciate that. So, with that being said, here we are. We have that. Yep. Now, we have a letter. The second part of the meeting that I was discussing, if you could all be patient for a moment. Hey, we're having side conversations that need to stop. So, the second part of this letter is a Lane and Hammer letter dated April 8th, 2025, and that was the second meeting that I attended this week. And to understand that going back and reviewing this LIP, from the beginning, there was a discussion on the ownership of the road. From the beginning, the selectmen, at their negotiation, stated it's not necessarily ownership of the road, it's what they legally, and I'm going to check with Judy here, it's called control of the road. So it doesn't, talking about ownership, doesn't mention anything like that, it's called control of the road.
Controlling interest.
So we understand that typically planning boards and zoning boards of appeal should not be required to sort out disputes, title issues, but the Southwick precedent, they're referring to a case they're talking about, also makes it clear that the local board should not issue an approval of a development when the developer is unable to establish that it has legal right of access to the project site. So with that being said, sir, out of respect for the fact that you're granting us another extension for the month and that you've heard the additions that I've put into the permit, what I am doing here in exchange, I would say, would be to give you enough time to come back with something that says you have control of the road as well for us next month.
Okay.
And if you can do that as well, that would help us all in a different position. Okay. Because if you can't, again, from our advisors here, the town council and our consultant, that we would put that as a condition of the permit. So before anything could take place, you'd have to determine that you have control of that road and that you can do those upgrades legally.
Okay. That's
Okay? So does anybody still understand why I was telling them to hold off a few minutes now yet? So what will happen is, as part of this comprehensive permit, the owners of the property and the developers, AKA the applicant, will have to go and prove control of the road, which is what the abutters have been requesting from the beginning. So I just wanted to make sure you understand that these have been, it hasn't been in the works, but it's come up recently because of this letter and the opportunity to put it in there. So now legally, they are going to have to find out who has control of the road before they can break ground, basically.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
You may.
And forgive the ignorance, but rather than set the expectation that if the applicant's not able to come back in a month and prove it, that we would condition it in such a way, why not just make that as one of the pieces of data that we need before we vote on this application?
Because they're not going to get judgment from the court anyway.
You're going to have a dispute that you don't have the authority to adjudicate.
Again, we got a clock.
Interested parties who disagree over those rights. So what you can do, and what I've seen done in 2 other comprehensive permits I've observed, is a condition in the permit that he has to be able to establish that he has a legal right to build the project. And then it will probably end up in court. But
I mean,
until
it seems like a perfectly sound...
until that is adjudicated,
But my,
you probably can't get a permit, because you would be having a condition in the permit, a condition of approval, that he has to establish that he has the legal right to build that road.
and maybe I didn't articulate my question appropriately. I mean, if the applicant in our review of details and data is not able to show proof of access
The permits don't get
and
issued.
use, then why wouldn't we require that before we make a vote on?
All I'm saying is that I think you're going to end up with a dispute over
Okay, and
over that.
that's the piece that maybe I
That's what I'm
just
saying.
don't
It's like,
understand.
you're going to have
Why is it a
parties...
dispute that we can't adjudicate if we don't have the information?
Because it's going to end up in court, sir.
It's a legal dispute.
The only way
over-
for them to get proof.
You don't get to decide which side is telling you the truth.
Oh, no, I agree with you. No, I understand that, I agree with you, but absence of that, I'm not suggesting that we would make a determination of, well, you don't have proof, so it must not be true.
How about cost?
I'm suggesting, if we don't have that, then why would we move forward?
What I've seen in these cases is dual conflicting legal memoranda.
Right.
Applicant says one thing, other interested parties say something else, and now the board has 2 equally plausible legal memoranda, and what are you going to do with them? You can't do anything with them, because you don't have the authority to decide who's telling you the truth and who's right.
Okay,
So
so
you
you-
end up
okay.
putting a condition in the permit that says,
Okay.
you don't get a building permit, you don't get to do anything until you've established
I
that you have the
understand.
right.
And thanks for articulating that, because I think I needed that teased out.
Understood,
Because what I didn't quite understand, so you're suggesting that if in fact the applicant, not to be proposing the actions forward, but if the applicant came back and said, look, I don't have proof in my hand, but I'm telling you my position is this. So you're suggesting that he wouldn't come back and say, I don't have the proof you need. He would come back and say, I know I have use of this road. And
I guess.
it's his word versus someone else's.
Yeah, I mean, you've
He's
been
gonna
asking
come
for a
back.
legal memorandum.
A letter from his lawyer that disagrees with
Yeah.
this letter, and we're going to say, okay, great, you guys figure that out.
Okay.
If we approve the permit, we approve it. However, you cannot get your building permit until you can legally prove that you have access to the road, which means they can fight that out, and when they get their access, that could be 3 years from now. That's fine. When you get it,
Some land court judge is going to figure this one out.
yes.
Because then it's their dispute.
Right.
If the town pursued this prior to this, and if they wanted to, then it would be a legal matter that the town would have to pursue, and that would come out of our pockets,
Understood.
right? So this way,
I understand.
he could possibly get in front of a judge next month, and the judge might come back with a legal document from Massachusetts saying, yeah, he has the right to the road.
Yeah, no,
Then that makes a decision for us.
Yeah,
But then he might come back like Ms. Roach mentioned, he could come back with a legal letter from a lawyer, which then counteracts this one. So then you two go figure out what
Yeah,
it
no,
is.
I respect, Mr. Chairman, I'm not trying to suggest all the plausible predetermined outcomes for it.
Sure.
But I understand. But what I needed was, I needed articulated, you know, what was that, you know, it's a decision that we can't make in absence of data.
Right.
But I think I better understand that now.
Okay, good.
Thanks for
and this is what we're here for. We're all working this out, and we're all learning as we go. So, you know, it's challenging to get all this right. And believe me, we want this right. There's no question about that. So I think we have exhausted our avenues of approach this evening, if I'm not mistaken. What I would like to recommend is since the applicant has already agreed to come back next month, which will be May 22nd at 6 p.m., then I'm going to recommend that we adjourn for this evening, leaving this meeting open, and as usual, everything is available for comment at the town hall.
So you're continuing the hearing to May?
Correct, May 22nd.
I'm certain.
And it will be, depending on what number of events we have, what position will be on the schedule. So if that's it for this, you know, we're done with this part of the evening, so if you're done hearing this one, you can head on out.
To the chair, just make a motion to continue. Just make a motion to continue.
I move to continue the meeting to May 22nd.
It stays open, so we just continue. Motion to continue?
You got to vote on it.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, to continue.
All in favor? Aye. Yeah, okay, so just for the record, we have that.
Do we have minutes?
There's February minutes.
Oh, February,
somewhere.
okay, yeah, February. Oh, yeah, those are the ones you and I were writing our notes on.
Yep.
So, very quick, just us four right here, well, whoever, but we have minutes for 2/20/25. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes for 2/20/25? Hold on, we'll let them clear the room. I'm going to let him clear the room a little bit first, then.
No, yeah. I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Chair, I'm going to leave. I think I've
Thank
done
you.
enough damage here tonight.
I'm going to make a...
Let's let them walk out.
Yep,
They're going to get all the background noise, you know, so.
yeah, sure. Bye, Judy, thank you.
I'm going to keep that because we're going to need it. That's our count.
All right, I think it's quiet now. I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the Thursday, February 20, 2025, 6 p.m. meeting as stated.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to second, with a condition, if I may.
Sure.
And I apologize up front for being that guy, because Mr. Fallon does a fantastic job with minutes. But I couldn't help but, on last page, jump out. And you can certainly turn this down. But on last page, not making this about me, but mid-page, it says, Michael Maron stated, the board does not have expertise and are not professionals. May I request, this is not vanity.
No.
But may I request respectfully that we can just elaborate on the fact that my statement was that we don't have expertise in the sewer.
The area, right.
The area we were discussing, and that we were not professionals in that
area, like sewer or whatever it was.
for those topics specifically.
Correct.
Because I would respect, so I won't speak for myself for once. I would tell you that I sit among some of the finest professionals I know. And so I'm just compelled to ask for that edit.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Okay, so the minutes were covered.
We still need to vote on them, though. There's a pending motion.
I approved, he seconded.
Oh, okay, yep, so, Vice Chair?
I approve as stated with condition.
Mr. Cussy? I approve. Mr. Chacolo? This is just for minutes. Are you here for February?
He was not.
Okay, do you vote to approve?
I approve.
And I vote to approve?
I approve. I voted on like half these things, and I think Ms. Bush voted on the other half.
Okay, that's fine. We're all good.
Just minutes, yeah.
Okay, so, I believe we have covered all of our business duties, is that correct?
Yes, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I will accept that. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, we'll see you next month.